Welcome, I am Tony Taylor and I am the Connector. Today we are talking about mental health. Like, so many people don't believe in mental health or think it's a real thing, and especially in our community, it's like very prevalent nowadays. Today I have some great guests on my show. I want to start off by welcoming Ashley Hoover.
Hi.
And this is Holton Langston and Seth Yuri. And today we're talking about mental health and how it impacts us on a day-to-day basis. I want to first start with Ashley. Ashley, can you give us a little background about you, what you do, and where you're located?
Sure. So I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I started in 2012. I have a mental health practice that's totally Psych NP run off of Patterson Avenue. It's called Monarch Mental Health and Wellness, and I got my start actually at the Henrico Jail.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was a great kind of trial by fire. I had 1,500 inmates at 2 locations and, fresh out of school. So that was kind of how I got my start. And I've just been really passionate about kind of what I do and my journey. And I love my workspace, actually. So I'm lucky.
You are very fortunate. I mean, how is it to work in the jail with 1,500 inmates and being as beautiful as you are?
Thank you.
Did you get anything accomplished without all the harassment from?
So actually, like that. So I was pregnant also twice.
Oh, geez.
In jail. I was pregnant in jail twice. So,
but not with the inmates.
No. But they would definitely offer like, "Hey, I'll catch that baby."
Oh my God.
Like I'm good. But no, it was so eye-opening because, I mean, everyone I worked with had trauma. It was very interesting, and in a lot of cases, it made sense how you get to jail because of what
Pathology,
they were up
history.
Against, right?
And a lot of people don't realize that it's genetically can be handed down from generation to generation. And if you don't break that pattern with therapy or some form of metaphysics, it continues. It perpetuates, and it just goes on and on and on until you break that cycle.
Generational trauma is very real.
Yeah.
And actually, they've proven it by studies in the amygdala, and that trauma centers in the amygdala are actually heightened in babies that are daughters or sons of people who have endured severe trauma.
Yeah.
Their kind of centers already differently wired.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But yeah, it was a great experience. And then I did nursing homes for a while and would go into different nursing homes. It was similar but different, actually. Then I did private practice. I actually did telemedicine kind of before it was cool in the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, wow.
They had little satellite clinics that patients could go into that didn't have access to care and see me on the video. So that was amazing. Kind of neat. Yeah.
Was that during the pandemic?
It was right before.
Oh, right before.
So it was like before. That's right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the pandemic, because a lot happened during the pandemic. And I think emotionally, mentally, it wrecked a lot of people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. How was your practice impacted by that?
So we did not skip a beat because we were already doing tele.
Yeah.
So it was a really easy transition. So patient care was never interrupted.
Okay.
But what I realized on my own journey, I think, was I was rolling out of bed, getting the kids out, seeing patients, and then going downstairs and making dinner. And so I actually, so
how was your emotional well-being going then?
Right. So I got depressed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what is wrong with me? I love what I do. This is not like me. It was the transition, I realized, right? So like for me, driving in my car to and from work is my on and off.
Yes.
And I didn't have that.
No.
And so I actually just started driving into like an
your on
office.
button was stuck.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, right? And so I just went into an empty office to kind of have that transition for myself. So that was really helpful though, because I could talk to other people about that too, right? Because a lot of us kind of have that on and off button, I think, right? We go from work to home, and that's how we kind of keep it separate. But the impact on society, I think, as a whole, and with our younger people was just profound.
And that's why I had these two gentlemen on today, because in mental health, not a lot of times we don't talk about men and males, our feelings, because we're taught as a society that, no, you're supposed to be tough, suck it up. No, you don't talk about that. No, you're stronger than that. And so it's okay to cry, it's okay to have a breakdown, it's okay. And even for me, I've had issues during my life with trauma growing up, and then like but I've been in therapy.
Right.
So I've been in therapy. My son is 32. So I've been in therapy since he was 13.
Wow.
Because I was like, all right, enough is enough. Like, I know where I came from. I know where I want to go, but I can't get there if I'm not healed. So I started healing myself. And again, like we spoke about earlier, the generational healing. So once I heal myself, it'll heal my son, my daughters, my grandchildren. So it'll break that cycle.
Right.
And so, Holton, I just want you to jump in here and tell us about your journey with mental health and how you were diagnosed and at what age.
I mean, mine started like so young, like before I even truly understood what like anxiety and like depression was. Like, it wasn't until probably like high school I had met with therapists before, like leading up to like little things in life that like I didn't even realize were like anxiety and like depression. And then in high school, when I met with like this one therapist, and they were like, did you used to, before school, wake up every morning and be like, my stomach hurts, I don't want to go to school today? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, that was anxiety, and like, you just didn't know. And I was like, I didn't know that that's what that was, of not, and I couldn't even, I think that's a big thing with a lot of people now. They get the question of, why are you anxious or why are you depressed? And it's so hard to pinpoint an exact reason or like what happened or what caused that spike in that moment right there to cause that. And people who don't experience it don't understand how that works. I know, unfortunately, I did struggle with that with like my father for like a long time. Was the idea, just being like, you're a man, like, toughen up, like rub some dirt on it, you're gonna be fine. And I just couldn't like explain to him in words of like how I feel and like why I was feeling this way, and I couldn't make sense of it until an older age.
And because he was that way, and it probably was some things that he hadn't dealt with his childhood. Yeah. Right? It's cyclical, it repeats itself. And so he pushed that onto you, because that happened with me as well. And so, until you break that cycle, and it's okay to talk about your feelings, because again, in society, stuff that shit down. Don't talk about that. You can't have that feeling. No, jump right back on your bike. Like, I did that with my son. I remember him, and he was just riding a bike, but I was like, you're tough, get up. And my wife is looking at me like, what the hell, Tony? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, he's a boy, but he still needs the same nurturing as our daughters do.
Oh, yeah. And like, my dad's definitely like broken the cycle like now, and now he understands it, and he's so good about it now. Like, he knows, and I think parents especially know it within their kids when something's wrong. They're so good at like reading faces and reading body language. And I could leave for work one day or come home, and he'll send me a text out of the blue, and he's like, did you have an okay day today? What's going on? Like, and he's so good about like checking in now,
which is great. That he can recognize that he has made those changes, because with him making those changes, it helps you. Oh yeah. Because you're safe. You can talk to him about it. Before that wall was up, and you wouldn't divulge any information because you didn't feel safe. And it's all about safety and being, able to talk to your parents about anything, whether it's good, bad, or indifference. Because I, too, came from a background where there was not a lot of communication in my household with my parents, specifically with my stepdad, because he was not my biological father, so he didn't feel like he had a right to discipline me, to talk to me. And later in life, he came around and he started talking to me about the birds and the bees, which the bees would have already flown the damn nest at that point. But he did come around. So Seth, tell me a little bit about your journey, because I've known this kid before he was born. His mom called me and said, I'm half pregnant. And we had just bought the salon, and I laughed and she hung up on me. And this is a product of it.
I think you'd still probably give the same reaction.
Exactly.
I don't know, very similarly to Holt, you know, I kind of realized at a young age that I had just like feelings I didn't really know how to explain, mostly just anxiety and depression in general. Around third grade, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I went on medication, and that completely killed my self-esteem, personality, and pretty much, at least how I felt, anything that really made me. So I struggled with that for a long time until about senior year of high school. So for a good, portion of my life, I felt very lost and confused. And so during that time, I think I spent a lot of time reflecting, and I tried to really make sense of it all. So it's definitely gotten easier. I grew up in a very split household where, my mom was very, caring, and my dad was more or less straightforward, wanted to
Because he has that
get stuff
military
done.
background.
Yeah, strong military background, and even the work he does now is very demanding. I work with him now, so I appreciate that much more. But
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I love your dad.
and absolutely, I think growing up, I thought he was very cold and didn't care necessarily.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot of great lessons on just whether or not things are worth caring so deeply about, or having that anxiety in a certain situation, whether or not it's really worth the anxiety or worth the stress of if it's
Now,
really
how
that
did
big
they
of a deal.
You talked about medication.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when Heather told me that you were going on medication, and I did see a change in your demeanor, your appearance. You were kind of like this little zombie kid running around. Like, it wasn't the true, like you said, it wasn't the true Seth that I knew. And how long did you do medication?
So roughly 9-10 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was, I remember specifically, like, most of the time going into the doctor, and it was a very simple, short range of questions of, have you been focusing better? And not really. Have you been eating better? No. Well, I think we're going to try a higher dosage of medicine.
Yeah.
And I heard that plenty of times, and I got to the point where I was tired of it, and I told him, I don't think I'm going to take this anymore. And
Yeah.
I
How
think,
old were you?
Was
it your junior year?
It was my senior year. I had a couple more months of school left. I figured I was going into the line of work I was, and I decided I was either going to take this medicine for the rest of my life or figure it out now. So
Yeah.
I figured it out, and it's definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Are you med-free?
Absolutely.
How do you feel?
I feel fantastic. Originally, I had medicine to control my ADHD, and I think that just took me time to get used to, and learning that it wasn't really trouble focusing on important things. It was trouble focusing on, just random tasks that are given to me, in school and stuff like that, things I'm not really interested in. But once I, found a field I was interested in, I could work, as long as you really need me to. So
Yeah.
I'm very, proud about that.
Well, I'm glad,
yeah.
because I saw a huge change in you from when you were on meds. And the same thing happened with my oldest daughter, Sade. We put her on meds, and she was probably 11, 12, the beginning of middle school, and she was like a freaking zombie.
It definitely.
And I hated it.
Yeah.
And then we didn't do it for long, because I was like, if this is the way she's going to be, I'd rather have the old Sade and not a kid that's drugged up and just has no zest for life. Because Sade is very outgoing, and so it just made her demeanor just like diminish.
And that's exactly how it is. You wake up and you're just going through the motions. You don't really feel like it's
record.
you don't feel like it's a new day. It just
No, and I I think that's one of the hardest things too, with like being like a kid, and you want to be an advocate for yourself and like the medication, especially alone. Like I was right there with you, like at, 12 or 13 is when I first started like ADHD and depression meds, and you become a zombie, you become emotionless, like you don't have any feeling. And I'm not knocking it. I think some people do thrive really well off of medication. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've seen that. And then sometimes there are people like, I don't like who I am on that. And don't get me wrong, every day is like another struggle, but it's like, it's definitely mind over matter. Like I have to get out of that bad headspace, keep pushing forward, find things that make me happy to replace having to use like medication like that, and just keep going.
Absolutely.
Actually, let's talk
Yeah.
about medication.
Yeah, please.
so-
Dying over here.
That's why I'm throwing you the
Sorry,
ball.
thank
Alley-oop,
you.
I'm going to throw it right back to you.
So I think I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
And for 9 years, that's super sad. And it's funny as we're sitting here, because I bet we're all ADD, by the way.
Oh, I am.
Because
Back in the
we
60s, it
chose,
wasn't diagnosed.
Yeah.
we chose professions that are very geared towards ADD, actually, right?
Yeah.
So we like to be busy, we like to be on our feet, we like to be doing things that we're interested in, because if we're not interested, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
And that is a struggle. So with meds, I have this conversation sometimes multiple times a day. We don't want you, I don't, and I wish it was true for every prescriber. I want you Tony 2.0. I want you better, right? I want all of your personality to be there, and all of your gifts, and all of your funny, but also, right, not white knuckle it is what I
Yeah.
say. And so we want you to be you, but just easier to be you, easier to get out of bed, easier to focus on the test, easier to, go on with your day without having that constant anxiety and 100 tabs open at all times, right?
Yeah.
That we're just trying to manage. And so, my 2 kids are ADD, and I have 1 kid who's doing well on medicine. And there's new stuff too, right? And so this methylphenidate he takes at night, and then it releases through your colon, and so it doesn't go through your stomach and stuff. And so it's totally different. You
Wow.
wake up kind
Never
of,
heard that.
yeah, you wake up with your ADD symptoms like kind of already managed, right? So it's that whole, did you brush your teeth? Did you brush your teeth?
Yes.
That we can kind of avoid, right? But then my daughter was falling asleep in class. Totally does not tolerate a stimulant. And I think it's funny because a lot of parents, are afraid it's going to wind my kid up. It'll make them
Yeah.
bounce off the walls. But if you truly have ADD, as you know, it makes you tired and it makes you zombified. And a lot of the SSRIs do that for depression and anxiety and stuff. And so it's really listening to your patient and not saying let's go higher, but this is not the drug for you. We need to change it completely because
Yeah.
obviously we have not hit it.
Now, have you had a patient that you've tried multiple medications and none of them work? And can you talk about that?
Sure. So I never give up.
Yes.
So I don't believe in, and I might get backlash for this, I don't believe in treatment resistant anything, right? I believe that we haven't treated it correctly.
Yes.
And so I don't like that label, oh, you have treatment resistant depression. Like, probably not.
Yeah.
Like, we just haven't found the right combo, right? And, there's TMS, which is super interesting, transmagnetic stimulation, and it's a magnet that goes with your brain and kind of resets your electrical, like,
Your
waves
biofeedback.
or whatever. Yeah. And you can do that while you're actually on medicine. There's, oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. Ketamine.
Oh, the ketamine
And
therapy.
I don't, not because I don't like it, but I think that the research isn't great, and I'm a big research nerd. And so I think that it's just kind of hit or miss for people.
Yeah.
But also, there's the newer meds coming on the market that are actually more similar to antipsychotics that we're adding to antidepressants or even standalone treatment they're studying it for. And so mood stabilizers can be effective with personality disorders that often accompany post-traumatic stress disorder. So I don't know. This is a very long answer, but I think that looking outside of the box is important. And if the SSRI isn't doing it and it's causing like sexual side effects or weight gain or blunting, there's enough out there. We don't need to stay with that.
Now, you talked about ketamine. So I live in a spiritual realm. I do medication when I need it, but I'm not a huge component of medications for myself personally because my body is very sensitive and I can't take medications. So I'm looking into going to Costa Rica. It's a resort retreat called Rhythmia, and they do ayahuasca.
Yep.
Do you know anything about ayahuasca?
I think it's fascinating.
Oh
like, I'm all for alternative treatments.
And it's herbal, and it's natural, it's herbal.
Sure.
And it's not man-made. And like I said, I've researched it for the past
And you'll be
5
with
years.
like a guide, right?
So yes.
Yes.
At this, because I looked at many of them.
Yes.
And I guess it's one of those things is you get what you pay for.
Probably.
Because the one that I want to go to is about $9,000, and I'm taking my daughter. My middle daughter Leah has a lot of. Sometimes she has emotional problems and anxiety and depression. So I want to go to Rhythmia for myself because I've been wanting to go. And I spoke to my daughter Leah about ayahuasca, and she spoke to her therapist, and her therapist said, "If your dad's paying for it, you should go."
Yeah, it's a good answer.
Saying, it can't hurt you.
Yeah.
I think it's good. And I've seen so many, at this one that I'm looking at, a lot of celebrities have gone there. So that's why the cost is outrageous.
Sure.
But you do an evaluation before you get there.
Guide, yes.
They have medical staff there, doctors, nurses, psychiatrists. They have shamans. And then you have to stop taking your meds like 2 weeks or I think prior to getting there because you want to be a clean slate so that you can accept the ayahuasca a little different, better.
Cool.
Yeah. So
No,
I'll
I
let you
think
know
that's
when I
super
go.
cool.
I think we're supposed to go in like January, February.
That's super cool. I think so. That's actually one of my beefs with ketamine is that most of the clinics, they don't have therapists.
Yeah.
So you're getting ketamine and sitting there.
Yeah.
And nobody's helping
Managing.
you go
Yeah,
through,
it's
navigate. Yeah. Like, good luck, and that just makes me a little nervous, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Like, I love that there's medical professionals and
Oh,
a
yeah.
shaman and
it's like the top rated place
that's
in,
cool.
in the world, actually. And it's just crazy how these natural drugs now are starting to come about.
Yeah.
And again, I don't have a problem with man-made drugs because
Sure.
people need those drugs.
Sure.
It's just like surgery.
Right.
If I break my leg, I can pray about it or I can drink ayahuasca. That's not going to help the fact that my leg is broken.
Correct.
And I need real medical
Yeah.
help.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think with mental health, right, that's the only medical subset that we are kind of like pray it away, right? Or
Yes.
or tough it out or
Yes.
suck it up,
Yep.
right? If you had diabetes, nobody would be like, oh,
No.
suck it up, like, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't do the diet and the exercise and
Yes.
and also maybe the insulin, right? And you do the alternative treatments and nutrition and supplements and maybe medication,
And
right?
can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
When you said the diet and exercise, because that's where
Sleep.
I think that's very crucial for
Sleep.
anything.
Yes.
But mainly mental health, because when you release all those
Yes.
endorphins and you expend energy and motion changes emotions. So how do you tell your clients?
And so that's what kills me when you were saying, the 15-minute med check. That does kind of hurt my heart a little bit because I can't find out about your diet, your sleep, your social life, right? Your family life. And I think it's very naive to just treat people with meds and not ask about all of that, right? Screen time. sorry. Like, that's a big one in my office. And being the mom to two, tweens, we talk about screen time, and that, the impact on screen time and mental health is, and with the pandemic, right? Like, is just profound. But yes, I think that's important. I think if you're going to a practitioner who's not asking you all those deeper questions,
I think you need to find another one. 'Cause it's just like anything. It's not one size fits all.
Correct.
Because I've been to therapists over, like I said, since my son was 13, and I've been to many, but I had to find the one that was right for me.
Right.
Because a lot of times we go in and we start divulging this information, but we don't feel safe, or we don't, this guy doesn't give a shit about me.
Right.
Like, he's not leaving listening to me. He's over there texting while I'm in a session. So especially now, with, like you said, with technology and how we're attached, and I think it does a lot more than we know already, because there's no test or no data that's been done for the younger generation,
It's
like
coming.
these guys.
Oh, it's out there now.
Oh,
We're
is it
getting
out there
much
now?
better. Yep. And I'm all there for it. So, like, how old are you?
26.
26?
20.
20. Okay. So, right, like, not to say you guys are screwed, but you already did it, right? And so, like, you already went through it, right? Like, there's no going back.
I went through like such old school. Like, I remember even like my mom works in health insurance, and like she, anytime like a doctor would prescribe like a medication, and she would be like, God, that's such an old drug. Like, that's been around for like so long. Like, why aren't we like trying something that's like newer, or that more people are using? Like, I remember the first antidepressant, I was on Zoloft, and like that was like something that's been around forever. And there's so many other newer things like out there.
But those are the I still love my Prozac, y'all, and I will use lithium. Oh, I love lithium.
Oh, really?
For bipolar.
Oh,
it's great.
I guess it depends
But,
on
like,
what you're prescribing it.
But and those are those are very old school.
Yeah.
But yes, like, you got a zombie, we need to do better, right?
Yeah.
Like, you feel blunted and no personality, we got to pull out some other stops for sure.
Yeah.
And you said something about the psychosomatic manifestation of your anxiety as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important to note too, because that's how it usually comes about. Kids aren't going to say, Mommy, I'm anxious because so-and-so judged my outfit, when you're 6. You're going to say, I have a stomach ache and I don't want to go to school. And that's a big red flag.
I didn't realize. I feel like it's something that's talked about, but not, especially, I feel like it's talked about a lot more with females than it is with males. The comparison of like every day, like walking down the halls, and like, I came from a really good family. Like, I was very fortunate. My parents, I had nice things growing up, and, I never felt like I wasn't living up to the standards of like my other friends, but I constantly compared myself like to them. I'm like, oh, they look different than me, or they have this, or they're doing this, and I'm like, am I supposed to be doing that? Like, and then that anxiety would kick in, and then, God, I was the generation that really social media took off, and then seeing everything on Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, all of that, and constantly comparing. It was about 5-6 years ago, I finally deleted my own personal Instagram and took a huge social media break, because I realized how bad it was for my mental health, just constantly comparing myself to others. And I didn't even know if they were actually living that life outside of social media, or if they were just projecting it. But what I saw,
the filters that they have, she don't look like that, he don't look like that.
Yeah, what I saw, I was like, I want that. How are they doing that? I'm doing the exact same, career path, or I, went to the same school as them, and, I worked a job all the way through high school, but, they're going on all these yachts and all these trips and buying, and I'm like, how are they doing that?
Yeah.
And it took me a long time, now at 26, to not do that and compare myself and be like, at the end of the day, if I'm happy with what I'm projecting out in my life, that's all that should matter.
Seth, are you a huge social media person?
So actually, I was going to bring that up. I was able to. I think she brought up screen time earlier, and, obviously being a child during the pandemic. I
Oh,
was,
gosh.
playing video games a lot, and my school was online, and I'd have one computer open and another computer behind it, and
Yep.
and it was always Xbox until 12, and you wake up at whatever. And I do think that was a huge impact on my mental health during that time. I personally didn't take the pandemic extremely hard. I wasn't a very outgoing person beforehand. I stayed home a lot, so being forced to stay home wasn't necessarily like the worst thing in the world to hear.
Yeah.
But afterwards, being someone now who I don't have any social media. I think I have like Facebook or something, but I'm not actively on it, and I don't play as many games and stuff like that. And I think social media and video games are important. I think they've done a very good job at connecting people, and I can play with a buddy who's 3 states over,
Yeah, that part is
and it's
cool.
like we're right next to each other, and that's helped me a lot in life. I've had a lot of friends move away, but I do think that that's probably one of the main reasons of mental decline is the illusion that the connections you get on social media or over
Are real.
video games are real. And I think they're good for managing and building up relationships, but I don't think they're a great way to start them and rely on that as a way to get your social energy out. I think talking to people is really important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In person.
For sure.
I think anything is good in moderation. Because a lot of times when it's overkill and there's no parental control with how much time you spend on the laptop, the phone, the Xbox.
Especially like at a time like the pandemic, it was hard to find anything, and I feel like most parents just kind of said if that's keeping you busy, if you're enjoying that, then go for it. You got nothing else to do.
Right.
Yeah, because it was such a difficult time because we
Right.
didn't know what the pandemic brought or was doing, and you couldn't socialize with people a lot. And so you had your core group, usually your family, but then you weren't allowed to hang out with other people and have social events like go into their houses for sleepovers and playing. And
And then especially, like with kids my age, when you're 15, 16, you don't necessarily want to be talking to your family all the time.
Yeah.
So,
but why, Seth?
it
We
gets,
know it all.
We're
We're the
so cool.
parents.
oh, I know, but
You don't though. That's the crazy thing.
We
yeah.
don't.
You guys, and
We
I
don't.
hate
That
to
is-
say it, it's like
yeah.
you really do. You're like, oh, I know my kid. I know they're not
No, you
like
don't.
doing
No,
that
you
in there.
don't.
No, you
but
don't.
you don't know what goes on,
You
I guess,
don't.
behind the 4 walls of like our bedroom and
Nope.
what we're thinking inside of our head constantly. And my mom always said it really good, and she used to say, just because you're an adult at 18, I don't think you're an adult. I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still your parent, and I want you to come and talk to me about things. And I know there are secrets that you'll keep
Yeah.
until like later in life, but I want you to know, like, obviously, like you had said at the beginning,
door's open.
the door's open. There's never judgment. Like, come and talk to us when you're having like, these thoughts, or you don't know what to do in life.
Yeah.
Like, we're here. We've lived life longer than you have. We can help you with some of the stepping stones.
Yeah, that's the old way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because my 3 kids they're awesome, but I have learned so much from just raising my 3 children. Because I was old school, and I did things the way that my parents did, and their parents did, which is not necessarily the best way.
Right.
But sometimes that's all that you know until you get it in your head that, hey, you know what, this is not working. And so my kids have taught me so much, just raising them, as teenagers, even young adults, and in college, and like you said, now when we get together and they come over on Sunday dinners and they tell me stuff that I didn't know back then, and I'm like, wait a minute, that happened?
Yeah.
And my son was like, Dad, I would just literally walk out the house, you're laying on the couch, you're asleep, and I would like wave, bye, Tony, and I would do this, but what you don't know, you don't know. But so, yeah, I've done things that for my children that I said I would never, ever do. But again, it's not being a dictator. it's about listening to the kids, because again, my generation, it's my way, and that's what I said, and you suck it up, and you don't question me. You don't talk to me that way. You don't have an opinion. This is my house, So it was all of that I had to let go of, because either I'm gonna have my kids in my life, and they're gonna trust me and love me, or B, they're going to alienate me and go somewhere else and experiment with drugs, and they're going to have another friend that they're going to confide in and talk to. And so, yeah, you have to be flexible when you have children. I'm sure you see this all the time, Ashley. Now, what are the age groups that you work with?
So I do 13 and above.
Okay.
Mostly. I like adults. I can't do the littles. But there's one nurse practitioner in my office who sees 8-year-olds, and then I just hired another nurse practitioner who's going to be seeing more children as well.
Okay.
But you two bring up such amazing points, and I'm just super excited to be talking to you guys. Because
and that's why I wanted to have them on, because,
yeah, that's so
in
cool.
our society, it's usually females. Again,
Yes.
we are told as males, you can't
Yeah.
show your emotion.
Yes.
But it's okay to have emotions. It's
Yes.
okay to have feelings. It's just what you do with those emotions and feelings, and
Yes.
how you get through those, jump those hurdles, and get over it.
And also, I mean, there's a racial component too.
Yeah.
Huge. I said I've been doing it since 2012, right? There's more Asian populations that are like coming to have
Wow.
mental health help. I've realized it maybe 5 years ago. I was like, I don't think I've ever had an Asian patient until today, right? And African American,
Oh my God, yes.
Seeking mental health care is also increased,
Taboo.
thank goodness, but it's increasing, right? And I
Which
think
is
it
great.
is this generation kind of, talking more about mental health and stuff, and it's really refreshing. And I think it's helping a lot of people seek care that otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, I know, especially being an African American male, like a lot of my family members who I know have trauma and all of this, but they would rather suppress it
Yes.
and not talk about it and not deal with it and not go to a practitioner, not do medication or not do spiritual practice or anything just to get them over that hump. But again, it can be ethnical, or not ethnical,
Right.
the ethnicity of different groups and how they form their opinion on mental
Right.
health. And it's unfortunate because so many people could be so much further down the road if they were seeking help, if they were in treatment, if they were on meds. And so it's really sad that people choose not to go down that road of, but it's great because like these two young guys, like they've experienced it, they've lived it, and like you said, the younger generation is changing the trajectory of the future of mental health in all races.
Yeah, I think so. And how nice for your son to see you go get help.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, again, because you know that old saying, shit rolls downhill.
That's right.
So if they see me bettering myself, letting go of trauma, letting go of things that no longer serve me, then they know that it's okay for them as well to seek therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, two really good resources for parents and anybody really. The Anxious Generation, which is super fascinating. He goes decade by decade.
Is that a book?
It is a book. And he goes decade by decade. Well, video games were around in the 80s and 90s, so why is it a problem now, right? And then kind of argues that point. Well, we used to play video games side by side with cheese balls in the middle of us, right? And so it was more of that connection and not the headsets, right, with the anonymity. But that's a really great book. And then Screenagers is the documentary I just watched. It's St. Catherine's, actually, because that's where my daughter goes. And I got a little heated. I have to share this because one of you mentioned it, I think. they compared a PET scan, which is the one that lights up, of someone on heroin and a 12-year-old on their screen playing one of those like games, like
Oh,
the
wow.
casino games. They looked identical.
That's insane.
And so it is insane. And so I think I raised my hand because one of the mothers was saying, well, we just need to, all be on the same page and all have the same rules and just know what apps they're on, right? Know what they're doing. And I was like, okay, if your kid was on crack, you wouldn't put a crack rock on the table.
Exactly,
Like,
right.
let's not pretend, right? They're going to come out with an app that you don't know about tomorrow. Like, there is no firewall, right? Like,
No.
This is imaginary. This is us trying to make ourselves feel better, that, moderation, and that they can have it, but, take it into their room, but they're going to turn it off at midnight, right? Or whatever time. Like, we just need to be better and smarter, I think, about
Yeah.
helping our kids.
Well, and I think sometimes, now as like an adult, like I get where the parents come from on that. Like they are your protector. Like they want to watch out for their children. And as much as they don't want to be that helicopter parent, I think it's really hard to open the door to those conversations of like building that trust with the child. Like I know if my parents would have maybe approached a conversation differently with like, what I was doing with social media at that time, at like that age, I probably wouldn't have like hidden things from them. But because that they wanted to try to almost like sneak around it and try to have the one up on me and be
Yeah.
like, oh, like I know now they have, Life 360, where like you can track like your phone. So I knew my mom knew about that. So obviously I wasn't going to put that like on my phone. But if she would have approached me with, hey, I saw this app, you work really late at night, I'm trying to go to bed, I know you're going to be coming home, would you be down for like putting this so I don't have to text you
Yeah.
to be like, where are you, what are you doing, and I can just monitor it and see like where you are, because I never lied about where I was going or who I was with, but at the same time maybe I didn't want Big Brother always like watching me. But if she would have approached the conversation with, hey, I think this would benefit both of us if we did this, I would probably be so open to it. And I think that's where parents sometimes jump the gun with us, is they want to try to be always one step ahead, and it's not fair, because then I think it makes us want to hide things even more.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's about the open dialogue
Yeah.
and having a really good communication. And not that I have with all three of my teenagers at some different points of them growing up, but Debbie and I tried to have our communication open. And I think for me, because my kids saw where I came from and they knew how I used to manage them, if you will, and so they would go to their mom. Because I guess they didn't feel secure or safe with me, and it's other things that they would come to me about sometimes, but mainly they would go to their moms, because moms usually are in the house a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of working moms, no, I can't say that, but so I guess kids sometimes feel safer with their moms.
Well, I think sometimes too, like kids, like, and Seth, you're probably in a really good like situation with like your parents at like a young age being like separated. You had the benefit of, you have two parents that aren't in the same household, where it's like,
Lord knows he built that.
who can I play off of kind of like the most, and who can I get away with things. And I think even with like my parents, with them being together, like you said, Tony, like at times I felt like my mom was my friend,
Yeah.
and my dad was the more serious one. So
Yeah.
obviously I would go and talk to my mom first about
Yeah.
things before I would talk to like my dad about it, and vice versa. But I think it's a really hard line, and I mean, I don't have kids and you guys do, that it's a hard line to walk, that I want to be their friend, but I am their parent at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to balance both of those.
Amen.
I think, with a lot of the issues, it mainly just comes down to, communication. You brought up, having, two separate households, and it, as far as, me and my dad, because I guess that was kind of the guy I saw as more of a I was less comfortable, and it really started when we stopped having conversations about things. We started talking, we started just arguing or just not even bringing it up, and I think that's where him and I's relationship got real rocky, and it's repaired now because we started talking, and I think with the issues with doctors and not getting enough information, and I don't think it's all necessarily the doctor's fault, and I'm not blaming parents, but I think it's a big responsibility of theirs to listen to what their kids are saying, listen to when they're saying, I don't feel, right now, or, even little things, because obviously, they're not going to say, I feel anxiety,
Right.
I feel anxious, I feel this. They're not going to describe it correctly, but you can at least, take those phrases or what they tell you and give it to someone who might be able to interpret it a little bit better. Or, I think it's just important not to overlook, when your kid does come to you, and at least personally, I think that kind of happened to me a good bit. It was kind of overlooked or looked at as dramatic, and later on down the line, it made me very hesitant to say anything, or it made me kind of believe that I didn't know what I was talking about, or it was kind of nonsense. So I think it's very important to just kind of listen to them, and even if it doesn't make sense, try and clarify it with them or something along those lines. I just think communication is the biggest part of anything.
Oh, absolutely. And I also think it's like the stigma that's attached to mental health. Like, some parents don't want to say, my daughter has social anxiety or depression, or she's schizophrenic, or, my son is in therapy. They just don't want it because they think other people, which is mainly true, a lot of people judge people. And it's unfortunate that people can't be them true selves. And it's also unfortunate that parents can't love their kids enough to say, you know what, it doesn't matter
Right.
what society says. It doesn't matter what the girl down the street says you're crazy or because you're taking meds. And so, again, like Seth was saying, I think you have to have that rapport with your child, and you have to be able to communicate effectively. And then it has to be a judgment-free zone, because me too, I sometimes would, I think I would be a little bit more harsh and not overlook it, because you were saying sometimes you felt overlooked, but because I didn't deal with it. As a parent, there's no manual. When these kids are pushed out, you don't the manual. They deliver the placenta, but they don't deliver a manual saying this is what you need to do to take care of Seth or Holton or Ashley or Tony. There's no manual.
Right.
So it's kind of trial and error being a parent.
Yes.
And sometimes some of us have better tools or coping mechanisms with our children.
Sure.
And sometimes, unfortunately, we, the children, we get kind of lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
I connect it with that like when you said like as a kid, it came down to, oh, you're being like dramatic.
Yeah.
And mine was constantly, at 14, 15 years old, and I'd be like, I'm depressed, and my parents would be like, what are you depressed about? At 14
Right.
or 15, you have the life, like,
Right.
You have
everything.
What are you
like,
depressed
you don't have
about?
any problems. And that was like that hard time where it's like, I know that they like, they were listening to what I was saying. It wasn't like they were dismissing it, but they genuinely, that was their question is, what is wrong? Like, what can we do to help? And I'm like, I can't pinpoint
Right.
that one thing that's making me feel this way. And that, I think, is a really hard thing on someone at that age is you feel like you're going crazy because all of these emotions are just wave after wave affecting you, and you really can't. It's like, I always compared it to like treading water, and I would start to like drown, and just to keep like my head above of just the wave of emotions, am I going to cry? Am I going to get mad? Am I just like overwhelmed? And I couldn't figure out what it was. And I felt like I was suffocating like with it. And I mean, to this day, I feel like I've never gotten a direct answer from, a parent or a specialist or anyone. It's just one of those things that you just have to keep treading and figure it out piece by piece and be like, was it this that, cause this chain reaction to this, and just figure it out.
Actually, a couple more minutes, but I wanted to talk to you about, so when teenagers start to self-soothe with drugs and alcohol, how does that impact a child that's already, if you will, emotionally unstable or not emotionally immature or don't have the coping? How does alcohol and drugs play into that?
So the theory is, and I think it's pretty on point, is that we stop maturing when we start using. So
Wow.
you know how you will run into adults, right, that have been using since they were 15.
Yeah,
Their emotional maturity level is that of a 15-year-old.
yeah,
The way that they maintain relationships, employment. And so that is a challenge, right? Because you have a patient who may be biologically older and more life experience, but really they're on the level of a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Depending on when the abuse started. This generation, too, though, is using drugs and alcohol less, also statistically, which is super cool. And I don't really know why, but that is something that's happening right now.
that's a fact. That's a good thing.
That is a good thing. But so I had somebody the other day who said, "Ashley, do you like working with substance abuse?" And I said, well, of course, because substance abuse, I don't see mental health as anxiety, depression, substance abuse, ADHD, right? These separate entities, because they all are messy and
Yeah.
overlap. And I drink maybe because I'm depressed or anxious or, right? I mean, I don't, mental health is not that clear cut, unfortunately, or fortunately, right? And so again, it goes back to seeing the person as kind of a whole. And when you come as my patient, right, I'm not even looking for a diagnosis. I want to know all of your symptoms, everything you're experiencing, and what's maybe the worst symptom, right? And maybe let's target that first, right? And so, and that's how you start, and kind of one piece of the puzzle at a time, because they do overlap, right? Yeah. And so, all right, you drink half a liter of vodka a day, let's work on 5 shots a day, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's not, and so I don't know if my approach is different or not, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
I don't think anything is standalone.
And then have you noticed any effects of using while being on medications?
Oh, yeah. Drinking depletes your serotonin. So if I'm giving you an antidepressant, we're kind of working against each other, right?
Or how about weed?
Well, my favorite. All right, how do I see weed? So I'm not a teetotaler.
Weed in conjunction with medication.
So there's no firm evidence.
Okay.
So you can Google, does marijuana help ADD? And you'll find all these articles. Yes. Does marijuana hurt ADD? And then you'll find all these articles. Yes. Does it help anxiety? Yes. Does it hurt anxiety? Yes. So there's not concrete evidence, right? And so again, it's about looking at the individual. And are we smoking, 2 grams a day from 9 to 9? That looks different than, lighter use, right? Again,
I guess my question is, if they're on medications already, but they're also using at the same time drugs, marijuana, alcohol, any correlation or anything that you know of?
So yeah, it's probably not a good idea.
Oh yeah,
because I'm playing with your brain, and so are the drugs.
Yeah.
But again, so when people start feeling better, they're not using. They don't need to.
Yeah.
Because they feel better,
Yeah.
right? So their anxiety is better, their sleep is better, their depression is better, their focus is better. And so use goes down without me really having to be like a bitch about it, right? Like
Yeah.
it just kind of happens, which is
Absolutely.
great. And I think that too, like building that rapport with your patient, like, all right, how much do you smoke now? Can we make this a goal eventually, right? Like, what are you looking for? Oh my God, I say this all the time. My goals can't be different than your goals.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to have the same goals. So if your goal is not to stop smoking, we need to talk about that, right? Like, my goal can't be stop smoking and your goal is smoking. That's not going to work. And that's really important. And I have checked myself many a times. Ashley, your goals are different than this patient's, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
And
I was watching this thing the other day, and it was talking about box breathing.
yeah.
So breathe for 4 seconds,
Hold.
hold it for 4 seconds, blow it out for 4 seconds. And it was really calming.
It's great.
And I did it for 3 minutes, and I felt so much better
Yeah.
after the 3 minutes were up.
Yeah.
So that's a little trick or a little thing that people can do in stressful moments, like having to take a test or go for a new job interview, or if you're just feeling overwhelmed, just a little box breathing.
Absolutely. And I love all those tools and mindfulness and stuff.
Yeah.
I do have a little joke though, you know, when you're a 10 out of a 10 in a full-blown anxiety attack, I'm not going to tell you to box breathe, right? Like, I don't want to see your response, right? Like, so, I mean, those are great tools. I think it does depend. Yeah. If you're, you know, a 6 out of 10 anxiety-wise, let's box breathe. If you're a 10 out of 10, we got to do something else.
Oh my gosh, we're almost out of time. This is crazy.
Oh, wow, that was so quick.
It was, right?
Yeah.
So, Ashley, tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, I'm off Patterson Avenue. It's called Monarch Mental Health and Wellness, and that's Hank. He's been here.
Hank has been here the whole time.
He has.
I forgot to introduce Hank. He's our emotional support animal.
He
And
is.
Lord knows we all need that. And he was like such a little gem. He just sat there the whole time.
how he
jumped
does.
up a couple times, but he's been just here.
I think
hanging
I
out
owe
with
him for this
Holton and
session.
stuff.
He's so chill. So
And he's in the office with you daily.
He is. He comes to work with me. He's my oldest coworker. Got a Dolly Parton bathroom I was telling you all about. So it's a little bit of a different type of office. We take all insurance.
That's awesome.
Which is really important to me.
And you said you started at ages 13 and up?
Yes, mostly.
you specifically?
For me specifically.
But there's other
yep.
people in your office.
And the other practitioners are awesome. You know, we all have kind of a similar approach to mental health. Our sessions are an hour for intake, a half an hour to 45 minutes for follow-up. So we really kind of build that relationship and,
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was so
Thank you.
fun. Thank you guys.
And this is Holton. He can be reached at a head of hair, correct?
Yes.
He's a great
Me.
stylist.
I mean, your hair's great.
Oh,
I've been
I
admiring
can't
it.
take credit for my own, but thank you.
They both have amazing hair. Seth has
Oh, he
gorgeous
does have really
too.
good hair,
Yeah,
too.
Thank you.
They look like the Bee Gees.
I'm
They
going
don't know
for
who
it.
the
I'm
hell
going for
they are.
You look like the Beaches.
I know that. Why do you think I don't know all these good bands? Huh? Dolly Parton
you,
and the
Andy, and
Beatles.
that's Barry, the Bee Gees.
There we go.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for
And
being
thank you
here.
for
I
having me.
appreciate
Yeah,
your
thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for another beautiful session. I'm Tony Taylor. I'm the connector. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here with me. Until the next time, stay connected. I'm out.